Hey, idiots! Welcome back to Ignorance is Blessed. It's a brand new year and almost nothing has changed, but we're here. I'm here with my amazing friend, but also brought on to help me with the production of this little fucking nightmare rodeo you guys keep tuning into, Saum Eskandani. Hi,
I will,
Saum.
I will be fighting for you to stop calling your beautiful listeners idiots.
All right, for the record, and in case anyone who listens is always is like, yeah, that's the part that I've kind of never liked. It's first of all,
We're
the
all
whole
idiots.
we're all idiots.
That's Socrates, man. It's like just admit that you don't know
That we
anything.
know nothing, which is the whole premise of this podcast, but also I think it's weird when people I know people who have just come up with names for their like fans and I'm like that's weird. Like the fans if they want to create a name, the Beehive wants to name itself, but it's people who are not Beyonce, which is much different. And I don't think Beyonce named the Beehive. They
Uh,
just appeared.
very quickly, I forgot to roll my audition. Are you rolling your recording?
I am, but we can.
That's all right.
we.
I'll pull the Zoom audio and I'll do my job as a producer and I
He's
will
off
go
to a great
grab
start. You're
our
fired.
safety audio, which I'm recording because dumb people like me sometimes forget to do the technical stuff. And that's
Usually
why
me.
that's why producers plan backups.
Yes. See, you guys, things are gonna get a lot better because I don't plan backups, and there have been episodes where I go, "Well, the audio's just ruined." So you guys can just imagine what the conversation was like. It was great. Um, Yeah, but we're just going to talk about, well, first of all, let's get to know you a little bit. I feel like for those of you who don't listen to my other podcast, Two Filthy Nerds, Sam has been producing and making it amazing over there. And
I came in for book 5 of Harry Potter.
yeah, like late in the Harry Potter game,
And
he
I'm
was
not gonna
like,
lie, I was binging 1 through 4, and every now and then I'd be like, oh, this would just be so much better if I produced.
so confident.
Like this
And
content is great. It's got to sound a little bit better.
I mean, in the defense of our podcast, it's not in the defense of it, that it would have sounded better if a turd came to life and produced it. Like, I think anyone who listens to anything I put out knows I'm not a great audio engineer, and frankly, I sometimes get a little lazy with the editing. That's
Feel like you've learned a great deal since we focused some
yeah,
attention on it.
yeah. You've helped me
Funny
a
how when you
lot.
focus attention on things, you can get better at them.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, shout out to Neurogum for helping me focus my attention on. Sorry,
Oh, you
uh,
talked about that before a long time ago.
yeah.
Like some
Oh,
vitamin B. What is it? You just
it's
chew
I
like
plug
vitamin
it by the
B?
way. So everyone who heard the intro of this podcast hears it every week and they're annoyed by it. They're not an official sponsor, but I always say it's brought to you by Neurogum because I usually chew it to like let my
Very
brain
Joe
go.
Rogany. Very like I've
He's
got
the one.
these 9 potions. One
He's
of
the one
which.
who let me try it. We were in the backstage of the comedy store.
That's called a good read in poker.
I mean, he's
I
like,
got
"You're
a
gonna love
solid
this."
read on that.
Well, it's not like he gets commission for me chewing it, but like if he did, he's he doesn't need more money. He's fine. But
He's fine.
it's B vitamins and L-theanine, which is a nootropic that I don't understand how they work, but there's a lot of bros who are like, oh, nootropics, whatever. But however it reacts with your brain, it gives you like a calm focus. And since I
Oh,
have
that's what my weed
ADHD,
is for.
yeah, it's just everyone has their thing that works for them. And mine's also Adderall since that got prescribed. That has changed my 2020. Uh, doing it very lightly, and I'm still afraid to do it because I don't want to become one of those Adderall people. Even though it's prescribed to me, I still am afraid I'm going to become some sort of weird methed out, like, I need my Adderall.
An ad
Uh,
head.
but I love the gum. I've gotten a lot of messages from other people who tried it who loved it, but then a few people think it tastes chemically. So it's worth a try. Use the code
The,
that was
the,
in the intro.
the gum
But
full of chemicals. Chemically.
yeah, well, it's like, it's all natural shit, but I'm sure it doesn't.
Does it come
Andy
in
loves
like
it.
flavors? Does it come in like spearmint and
They
cinnamon
have
and
mint and they have cinnamon. So not a
are there
ton of
any other
variety.
gum flavors besides mint and cinnamon? I guess
Fruit
there.
stripes. Remember those? Do those still
Yeah,
exist?
but that's if you call that flavor, it's like a 30-second burst of sugar coating.
Yeah, or like watermelon bubble yum
Oh man. Oh man, remember when gum
was a
was like
thing.
the
A
it
cr-
vice when you were a kid? Like
that was
just
our
gonna wad
cigarettes.
like 6 sticks of gum, like you just needed the flavor. You got
Yeah, you could tell who was going to grow up to be an addict if you really think about the gum chewers.
to.
I just need my fix, my Doublemint.
Because if you bought a Fruit Stripes, let's be clear, I don't think there's anyone listening to this who bought a pack of Fruit Stripes and did not chew the entire pack of Fruit Stripes on in one chew.
Immediately.
Because those
Yeah.
flavors didn't last that long.
Yeah, so you're just shoveling it in and then you're like, "Look, the wrapper's kind of a tattoo." Wasn't that Fruit
Oh
Stripes
yeah,
where it was like
yeah.
a
Oh my
shitty
god.
tattoo where it's like, "Oh, we're all I mean, cut to years later, how many of those people are like addicted to Nicorette and covered in actually bad tattoo choices? Probably a lot of us. I don't
Oh man.
somehow never got into
Capitalist
smoking.
conditioning.
They got to start them young. That's why they had to make laws banning things like Joe Camel, like cartoon cigarettes and shit.
The
Because
Flintstones used to sell cigarettes.
Winston,
If you've
yeah,
never listened to the commercials of the Flintstones voices doing cigarette commercial, like back then,
mm.
like remember that episode of I Love Lucy where she's doing like the live commercials, like they
Oh
used to
yeah,
these were like you would just you'd be in
Vitamina
the same
Vegemin.
studio, it would just the camera would cut and you'd be at the advertising set. And it's like the Flintstones doing that in their voices, selling cigarettes to children. You're like, oh my god. Not to children, selling cigarettes to everybody, but
To adults, but kids are like the Flintstones.
by the way, I
Fucking
my
hell.
favorite one of my favorite moments of pandemic is HBO has all the old Flintstones, and I just clicked one at random. And in the episode, it was like Fred's trying to get out of going to the zoo, and he's like, "We can't go to the zoo. That I heard there's a virus going around the zoo." And Wilma just goes,
Whoa.
"Well, then we'll wear a mask. Good night."
Oh my God, Wilma for the win.
The caveman in the '60s is like, "Oh, are people sick? Well, just put on a mask. Duh."
It's yeah,
And
a
go,
cave. Literally so easy. A caveman can do it,
Pay
and
us,
yet,
Geico.
yeah, and yet here we are with this being a political war. We don't need to get too deep into that because
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
sure.
I didn't mean to pull us into
No,
politics.
I'm sure I will exhaust people all year going like, and wear a fucking mask, like I have continued to.
But
But
if people are getting to know me, that is that's part of the get to know me.
yeah, Sam will come down on you with a wrath if you are
Yeah,
out
the
partying. If you're
logic.
without your
Yeah,
masks, he
don't
is not going to stand for it.
I bring knives to logic fights, but logic knives.
Logic knives.
I bring logic knives.
And then there's people who's like, I bring a gun to a logic fight, and it's just a regular gun. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
well, that's America. Okay,
Oh
well,
boy.
I mean, obviously last year was crazy. You jumped on board, but you came on board to produce a podcast because you left what you had been your career for a long time.
Yeah, you know, it was a decision that it helped that like all of my former careers sort of no matter where I would have turned,
We're kind of
they
dead.
were all sort of yeah, I couldn't go back to theater. Uh, you know,
He's an
poker
amazing singer, amazing performer, by the way. He's very modest, but I'm telling you now. I keep trying
um
to pester him to put out albums or something like start a YouTube.
nobody needs a new up and coming 37-year-old half white
You know who does
man.
need it? All of the other what half all the Iranians, Iranian Americans need you. Gay Iranian Americans
I
need you
don't
to be their icon.
if I could sing in Farsi, I might step up to that calling, but
I feel like you could learn that in a week.
or wasn't it Selena? Isn't that part of the Selena story? Like she didn't speak Spanish, but they made her record songs in Spanish, so she just
Yeah,
learned.
and she blew up. Look at that. Learn
I guess I
Farsi.
should learn Farsi. I mean, I'm in LA, so this is
We could at least like translate a popular song and do that.
um. But yeah, I sort of I took the opportunity to like walk away from all of my half jobs that
Yeah.
theater I cared about. Poker was more of a family connection, and
Yeah.
I
So for
liked
those
the people.
listening,
Yeah, I liked the people. I didn't necessarily like the work.
the
And
work. Okay, so he was like an associate producer for World Series of Poker.
sure, yeah, I was sort
You
of
were like wearing a lot of hats
I
over
was a
there.
Swiss Army producer. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
just I would sit in whatever chair was empty, and they knew I wouldn't fuck it up. We could
Yeah.
swear on this podcast, right?
Yeah. Oh, please. Please swear on this podcast. Yes, that's the whole point of podcasts. Fuck you, FCC. You can't stop me unless you want to hire me for a radio show, and then I can clean it up. I'm just kidding. I'll never
Um,
clean it up unless
I
you
would
want me
say
to.
like the closest chair that I sat in to podcast producing was talent producing. So like we were doing
Okay.
we were doing poker, which is kind of like live sports. We were semi live. We were like a
Yeah.
half hour delayed, but it was like doing the news or doing a live sports broadcast or a morning
Yeah.
show or one of
Pretty
those kind of
quick
things.
turnaround.
And I would produce the commentators booth often, which
Mm-hmm.
is very similar to like what I do with you guys on your other podcasts. Is just
Absolutely.
keep it rolling, make sure we're hitting our marks, make sure we're hitting our breaks, make sure we're saying the things that we need to say, and
Yeah. Shut us the fuck up
yeah, and we got to move on.
when it's time.
Yeah, we need a commercial. Let's go.
Oh, should we build breaks into this?
Yeah,
We're planning the podcast in the middle of recording the podcast. Because
we're about
I
10 minutes in, so in like 5 minutes we could probably use a break.
that's right. This is the year,
I'll,
guys.
I'll
This is
talent
the
produce
year.
myself.
We could just do a half an hour break and just put one in the middle and probably like this is the year
You're
maybe I
the
start getting
executive.
ads.
You're the executive producer here. We'll
Yeah.
do a half hour.
Let's do half an hour and let's, start small. Oh God. What was that? That was like a deep throated laugh. Um well that's interesting because I mean, first of all, it's evident that whatever you were doing provided you a lot of knowledge to transfer over because you came in. I mean, when you were like, "Hey, I would love to help out," I was like, first of all, honored because we have, I mean, A, because you're amazing, but B, because I'm like, like we ain't got like money.
Yeah, but I like working with you guys
Yeah, well, we love working with you. Well, I don't want to speak on behalf of
because it came
Nicole.
out
I'm
of
sure she does.
it really came out of your boyfriend Andy, who I've known Andy longer than I've known you, but now that I
Yeah.
know you, I've told Andy, I'm like, I picked Jessica. If this all goes down, what's the Larry David? I'm going with Cheryl, Larry. I just need you to know I'm going with Cheryl.
I'm going with
Um,
Cheryl. I'm honored.
but I
Thank
was
you.
helping them do like for
Game
their old
show.
band a game show, and it was like I hadn't quit poker, but poker was just not happening because
It's kind of dwindling, yeah,
yeah, there
because
was
of
nothing we couldn't play live.
2020.
And it would have been World Series of Poker, which would have been like our busiest season of the year. And it
So
just
you're kind of like, oh, I'm like so tied up, and now I have a weird amount of free time.
and since I know nobody who listens to that who knew me from that will listen to this, I will say have faith in me over in Pokerland that I could like do some of the higher up producing jobs. And I was like, no, I'm going to design a game show from scratch and I'm going to produce it from two machines in my room and I'm going to do it by myself because I have done all of these jobs before.
What? Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, you
But
killed that,
I brought you on to help us write. To
which
help
was
us write game show
great.
questions, and I just adored working with you. I would work with you for
Oh,
free
I
rather
only
than
brought you
working with
on for
people that I don't like
compliments.
for money.
I only wanted you here for praise. No, I mean, when you find people you can work with, and I feel like, I mean, that's the ideal. You hope to like, whatever your livelihood is, get to work with people that you're like, oh,
There's a
I don't.
reason Helena Bonham Carter is in every Tim Burton movie. Well, besides that they're married, but there's reasons that
Well,
directors always have the same actors.
yeah, Martin Scorsese and
You
Leonardo
work well
DiCaprio.
with people, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm excited to work with you. I know it's going to be a good product. I know we're going to have fun. And that's why I was like, look, this podcast doesn't really have a budget. Will you help me for a small amount of money? Make
I
it
came to you.
better.
I came to you. Let's be clear. I didn't.
No, I meant this
Oh,
podcast.
yeah, 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 yeah.
No. The Two Filthy Nerds, I was like, yeah, we have nothing. Do you know that? Like, well, because there's this, I think sometimes, not even sometimes, people can create a false perception of how well you're doing based on XYZ.
Dress for
You
the
know,
job you want, like fake it till you make it kind of thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there are people who, I'm sure there's a lot of people in my hometown who probably think I'm rich because I have had an album that went to number one on iTunes, but like have a bunch of social media followers relative to them. And it's
I
like,
remember, sort of as a side tangent, whenever you say that, like I remember during the writers' strike, back when like reality TV became a thing. Whenever that writers' strike was,
oh fuck, they
years and
were like the
years ago on
big
TV.
one. Yeah.
It was someone. I think it was Seth MacFarlane. It was someone from Family Guy who came out and he was like, "I don't think you guys understand. Writers are not rich." These are not wealthy people.
Yeah, it's not
They
rich people going, "Can I
need
have more
money.
money?"
But it's like, what do you mean you're not rich? You work on Family Guy. You work on blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I work on. I don't own it.
Yeah,
I'm not the
you get a
producer of it.
living wage. Like
Yeah,
what most writers
like a
make,
union minimum wage.
yeah, which is like, oh, and the other thing is if you took that wage, if you isolated that wage and put it in, bumfuck Ohio, yeah, you're making a pretty good living.
Yeah,
In LA, you're making a living. You're probably like you can be relatively comfortable depending on your life choices. But you're not like, oh, my
yeah.
brand new Mercedes and
New York. When I was working off Broadway in New York, I mean, off Broadway minimum, depending on the size of the theater or the sort of tier, because even off Broadway sort of gets broken up into tiers within the union. Uh, I mean, $500 a week to
yeah,
do 8 shows. To do 8 shows a week, you could be making $500 a week to live in New York City.
which is
That's
nothing.
crazy. But you're on Broadway World and you're on Playbill, and
You're
you're
living
tweeting
your dream.
about how great your show is, and the reviews are fantastic, and it's
And
it's
that's
like,
how Broadway thrives, is because it's a dream and you
yeah,
go,
because
that's
we
fine.
love it. Yeah,
I'm
we'll do it for nothing.
suffering for my dream. And that's
Yeah.
been the hardest part for me in LA, is that like LA prices to me are high, but I was always like, well, it's fine when I'm struggling but getting to live my dream. But for the last nearly year now,
It was kind of the opposite with me for poker. It was the first time I'd had money. And I was like, well, I don't like it, but boy, I like being out of debt.
but yeah, boy, is it nice to like
But then
not
the
go to
money
the
went away
store
and it
and
was like, well, I'm not gonna, show up for 4 hours a week to do something that I don't really enjoy for not much money.
for not much money. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I feel like, I don't know if you've ever seen the meme for the like hot crazy scale, like the hot where it's like
No.
there's like, I think it's just hot girls. I don't know if it's just hot people, but it's like this
The
graph
hotter they
of
are, the
how,
crazier they
or
are.
that it's okay to be crazier depending on how hot you
Oh,
are.
you can get away with crazy.
And it's the same thing with like, it's like, yeah, I will do a job I hate for a certain amount of money right now when I'm making no money.
Yeah.
But like, I need that amount I'm not going to do it for less.
Well,
I would
I'd
rather
built up
suffer.
over like my last 3 or 4 years in the theater, I'd built up some debt that I
Yeah.
paid off in a year of
I can't
full-time
believe you
poker.
built up
A
debt
year.
making $500 a week. You paid it off in a
Um,
year from
I paid
poker.
it off in a year doing poker. And,
Wow.
and it's what's funny is like that, like 4 or 5 years of debt is the amount of debt I've accrued in this 1 year. And so
Of not doing, of
let's
not,
make
well,
this the best podcast in the world.
you guys tell your friends about this podcast. Sam and I need to get out of debt.
I
By the
don't
way,
look hungry, but I am.
I love that. Um, on that note, in a year where, a lot of people are losing jobs, I mean, it's a pretty bold move to, even though you weren't making that much money, something you don't really like. How did you find the bravery to go, I'm going to step away from this, even though
Oh,
it's uncertain?
100% privilege. 100% me taking advantage of my privilege.
Oh,
I've I own property. I come from a family, and this was a family job. This was a family business that I
yeah.
that I sort of walked away from. That it's grown beyond. It's no
It's not
longer
a mom
family
and pop
owned.
shop,
Yeah, it's
but
no longer family owned. When we started, it was family owned, and we moved
expanded,
up.
made your money.
Yeah, we moved up to the big leagues, and things got shuffled around, and I was never like a salaried employee, but it was very clear anytime I ever wanted to work for this company, I would be able to work for them.
Yeah, there
And
would always
and I
be a
did
job for you.
for I mean my freshman year of college, the summer after my freshman year was my first show.
Mm,
It was really it was my dad's first show. It was my first show. It was our first big like poker show.
wow.
And not every show, but whenever I wasn't doing theater, and there were theater shows where I would fully say like, no, 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 there's going to be poker on these dates, and if the show is still running, then that's when you replace me because I got to go make money at poker.
Yeah, wow. That
Um,
speaks volumes.
and but yeah, I mean, it was definitely me taking advantage of my privilege. Um, and I justified that at the start by doing stuff for charity. So I was running like a charity bingo thing with family and friends. I was helping Andy do the charity game show where we
Yeah.
were promoting, at the time it was, I think our first episode was right when the George Floyd protest started, and we pushed a week, but then we'd give out websites like you can donate here, you can donate here, you can donate here, and we give everybody a chance to soapbox. And I was like, what can I'm not hurting like everybody else is hurting,
What
but
can I
I'm
do?
also not going to not take advantage of this moment to say, like, we're shaking the etch a sketch and I can afford to do it. And
Good for you.
let's see what else. But it's, yeah, it's not like I'm trying to be virtuous and say like everybody should have the bravery
No, well,
to
thank you for saying
have
that
a
because
lot of money and
no,
choose
no,
to
well,
do
because
something
the
else
thing
with their
is that
life.
there are a lot of people. I get a lot of like. First of all, I get an absurd amount of text-based uh, Instagram posts in my Explore page, and they're all like therapy related, like anxiety, whatever. They're like inspirational quote type shit. There are a lot of people who I think position themselves, and obviously you're not doing this, but like as these like sort of they're kind of influencers, but these like love and light and altruistic, people who are like talk about manifestation and the secret and how like if
Yes.
you own if you really want something, and then it's like yeah, they never tell you that their parents are paying all their bills. Like they're not surviving off of someone buying their weird bracelet. Like they have a trust fund, and it's like fine.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
not.
to say that there's no value in I think when you ask like where did I find the bravery, I say I didn't, but I think people do find that bravery who are
Absolutely.
not in my position. And I come from the world of poker. I mean theater and poker, but I grew up in poker. And it's even when you have the least amount of chips at the table, you're not out.
Oh, I
You're
love
not
that.
out.
Oh no, I'm gonna
And
cry.
and you got to find your spot. And yeah, it's way easier to win when you have all the chips at the table and you can take some riskier moves and you can play some wider hands and you can get cute and you can bully people and pressure people into it. But just because you have the least amount of chips at the table doesn't mean you're out. But you got to have, I can't think of another phrase, balls of steel. Like there are times when you are gonna pull a bluff and you are gonna do something really fucking brave, and you gotta have the
Balls to back it up.
chutzpah. Yeah, you gotta be able to
Chutzpah.
back it up.
Yeah, no, you
And,
have to like.
and that to me is way more impressive to watch. Like when the person who has the most chips when the last 9 people are in a poker tournament wins, that's not good TV to me.
No, I mean we
And
love an
those we
underdog.
always, when we would come into World Series of Poker and someone would have, there'd be 9 players left and someone has 50% of the chips on the table, guess who wins? That guy.
Yeah,
But
so you don't
every now
always
and
win.
then, every now and then, the guy who came in ninth place is sitting heads up against him. That is impressive as hell to watch. Like that is like, you know, you just like that is not privilege. That is fucking bravery and skill. And there are
And a
people
little bit
doing
of
that right
luck,
now.
right?
And a little bit of luck. Well, all of life is a little bit of luck. I mean,
Of
poker is
course.
poker is a game where you don't know two things. You don't know what they have and you don't know what cards are going to come.
Yeah.
So you position yourself for for as many positive outcomes as you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
That's
they're
what
majority
success
positive
is.
outcomes, but
Is
you want to get
like
the most positive outcomes
yeah,
that you
bravery
can.
and skill kind of meet luck perfectly.
Yeah, and I mean I've always said poker is like the greatest metaphor, at least in a capitalist society. Poker is one of the greatest metaphors for business, for life, for
Yeah.
just
No, what you
gauging
just
what
said was
move to make
amazing.
next. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. And I agree. And I
but
think we
but I
all
definitely like I don't like being I'm just going back to this. I'm so denying this description that started this whole tangent of like I was not the lowest stack at the table when I decided to make a crazy move. I had
but
chips when I decided to
no,
make a
and
crazy move.
the thing is like that's okay. You're aware of that. And it's also like I think there's something to be said about like it's okay. Like I think it'd be worse to have that privilege and not take advantage of it. Like, well, why not go for
That was a
something
big
bigger?
part of it too.
Why
That
not
was a
use it
big
to
part of
help
it too.
people?
I had a boy who broke my heart once,
That
who
motherfucker. If he's out there,
who
I'll kill him.
but who described it that way. He's like, no, 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 no. You have a responsibility. It's not just a privilege. It's you when you're in that kind of position, you have a responsibility to do something with it,
Hmm.
not just survive. And he talked about it even with my singing. He's like, you need to,
Share your
you know,
gift with the world.
yeah, but share it in a way. Look, if you feel
Make a
guilty
Farsi
about it,
album.
but if you feel guilty about it, then share it for charity or share it for whatever. Like do what you need to do. But like it's that the I don't know if it's necessarily a phrase out of the Bible. I associate with the Bible is don't hide your light in a bushel. Uh,
I've
you
never
know,
heard that phrase, but I like it.
we're all I know it from Godspell, which is a theater version
It's
of the Bible.
well, no, there's that phrase of like,
There's a line when you hide your light in a bushel, it loses something kind of crucial. Is the way that they rhyme it. I'm sure that's not how it is in
I
the
mean,
Bible.
I mean, there is this thing I've repeated, and I don't necessarily believe in like this like Christian version of a God, though I was raised Catholic. But the idea of some type of higher power,
Good
greater
stories.
power, the universe, what your talents are what the universe gave to you, and you sharing those talents are what you give to the universe. Like,
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
oh, oh, I'm gonna cry, and I have heard that quote so many times. I just am very emotional this year. Uh, no, I love that, but I just love that you were like, look, yeah, I had a big hand at the table. I'm probably saying it wrong, but like, I'm I have no problem with the fact that people it took me I used to have a problem with the fact that people just had a better situation, but I after years of like work, I like got over the fact that like yeah, some people got dealt a better hand. It's when people try to pretend they don't, maybe no one's doing that. I knew one girl. I'm just caught up on one Instagram influencer from 5
Oh,
years ago.
I, 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 I don't think anybody would deny that
Well, like,
there's that pull yourself up by your bootstraps crowd who doesn't appreciate that they drive on government funded roads, who doesn't appreciate that, et cetera. It's
absolutely.
that's a very skewed degree of that person I'm talking about. But it's that same mentality. Of course that mentality exists in the world.
No,
Of
of
course.
course. I mean, it's all there's so many things across,
But
across the board. I
I've said
completely.
the word trust fund baby more times than I can count in my life because I don't want to get like especially in theater where it's like you I mean, I don't want to turn this into a podcast about theater because that industry is completely fucked. And there were
Oh
so
yeah.
many talented people in New York, and talent wasn't enough even then because you had to be able to live and pay
Well,
and
no,
pay debt. And it's not a lucrative industry. And I saw some of the most talented people
give up because they couldn't
way
survive.
more talented than me, way more talented than me.
Well,
Just go away. And I didn't share on social media. Like I never liked spouting my success in theater because it always felt like bragging about privilege. Like I could do these shows that other people maybe couldn't afford to do.
well, on
Is
one
that does
hand,
that make me special? Like no, I
no,
don't think it
well,
makes me
because it's
special. It
like
makes me lucky.
I don't think that that is unique just to theater. I think especially in any arts field, I think you would be hard pressed, and not that they don't exist, but anyone who has like really risen up or is actively working within any type of like acting, stand up comedy, musicians, I'm sure there's a lot more that at least came from a position where they had enough money that they could be okay not making money for a while.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I
like,
know
if you
some.
have to struggle to survive and then extend your energy into, your art, it's going to wear on you. And if it, depending on where you live, depending on the circumstances, eventually you're like, hey,
I gotta
I,
go.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
And it's
I can't afford healthcare.
sad.
I can't afford my
Yeah,
rent. I
I
can't
can't
afford
afford
to
my
eat.
rent. And then,
I can't afford my sanity.
oh,
You know.
yeah. And it's so sad that, like, in my opinion, I've always thought that I'm like, I don't think we'll ever see the most talented people. Like, some
Mm-mm.
people have
No.
both, and that's fine. But like, there are
And
people that we're
and
gonna
and
miss.
there's a danger, I think, in like it's always good to praise when that happens.
Yeah.
When the most talented person who against all odds,
Yeah.
but it's also like don't set that as the expectation.
The expectation.
There's a I think it was on Freakonomics. I'm like a podcast junkie, and they were
Yay.
talking to they were talking about LeBron James and the actual metrics of what are the odds that you'll make it as a basketball player.
Yeah.
And LeBron
Whew.
James had got flack for saying something like I forget, I don't know
The
sports that
exact
well,
quote.
even though I've
What?
worked for ESPN more times than I can count. I just don't know sports. I don't know sports beyond poker. And but he got flack after winning MVP or something. And
Of
he goes,
course.
I was never supposed to be here. I was never supposed to be here. And there was a community of people who said, like, don't say that because like of course you are, like you are the success story, you are the kid from nothing who but and they
Yep.
went and broke it down and they're like, no, 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 no,
He
no.
should say that.
If you want to be a basketball player, you need to be tall and rich, and that's about it. Because the majority of the people who make it to the NBA are tall and rich. And this guy came from not rich. He was
Yeah.
tall and he was talented. I
Very
mean, tall,
talented.
talented, and rich. Obviously, you can't be a
Well,
rich
arguably
tall
some of them.
basketball
If
player.
you're tall enough, you don't have to be that
But
talented.
rich is a factor. Rich is absolutely. You got to be able to afford the training. You got to be able to afford the college. You got to
And
be
they go
able
to
to afford the.
camps,
Yeah, I mean,
and there's feeder high schools, so it's like you're the odds of even getting seen in like a regular high school by some of these big league schools.
yeah.
They recruit
Eh,
from. It's
But
bullshit.
it was important to him to be like, no, that's not reality. The reality is not if you're talented and you work hard, you're gonna make it.
No, he beat
Don't
the
let's not
odds.
pretend the world is fair in that way. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not.
Ah, I didn't know that happened. I think that like as much of a bummer as that is to hear, I think that's such an important message to go like you could. Oh no, I'm gonna cry. No, I'm not. I'm fine.
Well,
You could be the most talented whatever. But if you are not from a certain echelon of finances or depending on what you're doing, just people in the right social circle, like
then
you,
know the challenge in front of you.
yeah,
Be honest about the challenge in front of you. You can manifest and you can have your secret, and that
and
is
use your
important.
crystals
But
and pray.
you know, to me, it would be like playing poker and saying, the flop comes out, and I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going to keep playing with the first two cards I got dealt. Well, but
No.
but you're leaving half the reality on the board. You got to play within the realm of reality, and acknowledging that, you know, you can't be ignorant of the given circumstance.
Yes. Well, no, and
To
I
pull it
think
back into ignorance is less. Like, if you want to succeed at something, you can't come from a place of denial.
yeah. Well, and I think that's important because just like you said, sometimes the person sitting at the end of the table is the guy who started with the least amount of chips. On the other hand, it's like sometimes you lose and you're out, and that doesn't mean you're not an extremely talented poker player.
There's
Sometimes you're
also,
set up to lose.
yeah,
Sometimes you
and
lose.
and on the flip side of that is also like, people say poker is a game of luck. There's always a pro at the final table. And I'll tell you what, the World Series Poker, 6,000 people play that game. And it's not by accident that there's always a pro at the final table, because you also got to be good.
Yeah.
You
It's
got to be
not
good and
all
you got
luck.
to get lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't all get luck. And like that sucks. But it's also, I think you're better prepared to move throughout your life if you grasp that realistically.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, like we
And
don't all.
happier. I think you end up happier.
Yeah, no, if you can learn to like
You
let
don't get
go of some things.
frustrated by when the world doesn't consistently does not confirm your delusion.
Yeah. I mean, I agree completely. I think there's a lot to be said about your happiness being impacted by how well you are able to let go of the things that didn't go the way you wanted, Like just going, I really wish that would have worked out better, but what's my next plan? Where's the
Yeah,
next
that's part
move?
of it too. That's part of it too.
And I also think that like we live in this culture where we're fed that like the dreams come true story or whatever, where I wish there was
But
more
they
of a
do.
narrative. They
But
do.
I'll tell you what, and I say this to people when they come to Vegas. Um, I was never raised to gamble. I was never raised to put a quarter in a slot machine or money on the
Wow.
blackjack table. We were taught to play poker. Like my dad
Yeah.
was a professional poker player.
Did he not
My
look at that
my
as gambling as much because it's like skill
No, because
based?
there's skill and there is statistical return. You can look at
Mhm.
the statistics and you can say good players win, bad players don't. Period. Full stop. Science is there. It's all there. There are people who my dad made a career out of, but before we ever got behind a television camera, he, he raised two kids playing poker because he was good.
Yeah.
Not because
He
he got
was who
lucky. He was
Kenny
good.
Rogers was talking
But he
about.
was good, and he would also not take the money and then go to the blackjack table, or take the money and go to the craps table, or take the money
Yeah.
and go to the roulette table. But my point being, you know, when you look at, or I'll frame it in another story. I was in the Vegas airport, which, if
Yes.
you've never been, is just wall to wall slot machines.
Littered with
Really,
slot
I'm
machines.
assuming really low payouts. Like
Oh
in
yeah.
casinos, they have to keep them relatively competitive. Like you're not going to go to a casino if it's clear they have like a 53-47
Yeah.
advantage on their slot machines. They'll try and keep it 51-49. They'll try and keep it competitive. At the airport, I assume your odds are just
It's like
astronomically worse
99
than
to
at the
1.
casino. But there was this group of high school kids. I'm assuming a sports team or something. They were all traveling together with like a couple chaperones. And they had one of those giant, the slot machines that are like 6 feet
Oh
tall, and
yeah,
the
it's got the giant
reels are
screen in the
gigantic, and the
game and
handle
yeah.
is gigantic. And these kids were all standing around looking at it. And this guy comes up and starts playing. And right off the bat, he
Hits.
hits something that the bells start going off, and the cashier has to come over and confirm the win. And
Oh my
looked
god.
at the kids and I was like, don't make the mistake of thinking
That's
that
likely.
that's Vegas,
Yeah.
because that's what they want you to focus on.
The
They
winning.
want you to focus on the one time you win, so you don't focus on the nine times you lose.
Yeah.
And that is true not just of gambling, that's true, I mean,
In life.
across the
Well,
board. They want
I
to
think
accentuate the positive, which is, it's not, again, it's not to say like don't not accentuate
yeah, no,
the positive.
definitely
Obviously, you have
don't
to
forget to
accentuate the positive in your
celebrate
life.
your wins.
Yes, but don't celebrate your wins to the exclusion of your losses.
Yeah, don't negate the losses cuz that's what you learn from. That's how you get
Yes,
better in life. And you
exactly.
can't do anything with a
And in
slot
the
machine,
case
but
of casinos, it's like whenever someone says I hit a $10,000 jackpot, I'm like, well, how much did you lose last year?
yeah.
Don't look at it like you're up. It's fine to have fun, but don't say I won $10,000 when you're 12,000 in the hole, because you
Yeah.
didn't. You lost $2,000. And deluding yourself in that way, you can have the fun and be honest about it.
yeah.
Both of those things can exist, but don't have the fun and then pretend that you're also winning.
No.
Just you're not.
You're
You're
not. Well,
just
and it's
you're not.
like your life and your well-being is exponentially better if you can be you can't improve if like you can't improve your situation if you can't be realistic about your situation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like if you're just like I'm killing it and it's like no, you are it is really bad right now. And you like you need to be yeah, I guess present and self-aware enough to
I mean,
go
it's that notion of like, I don't know, maybe this is inappropriate for me to talk about, but you
never
look at like African American parents who have to have the talk with their kids
black.
about when the cops pull you over, and about, look, this is the reality, and it's a reality that you need to accept, because if you don't accept this reality, the odds are against you,
Yeah.
where you need to.
Like you can't sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, and it's
You can what a hard
it's
cuz
an uncomfortable reality, and it's a very useful reality, and it's a very useful ground floor from which to build success. They're not telling you that so that you don't succeed. They're telling you that so you have the best floor
yeah.
to continue to succeed, to continue to fucking live,
Yeah, which it
in some
sucks.
instances.
They shouldn't have to tell you that. That shouldn't be the case, but
Of
like
course. But then,
but the other option of going
denying it doesn't get rid of it.
it sets you up for failure to just go like, well, I don't want to like make them scared of the world. I don't want to disappoint them by, letting them know there's bad people out there. You're setting someone up for failure.
Yeah,
And I think that
you got to
across the
find a way
board,
to thread that needle, and it's not a fun. It's not
no,
always fun, but I
no, of
think
course not.
it's more productive.
Yeah. Well, and you set people up better. Like, yeah, I mean, general self awareness and like, you know, sure, your overall delusional
Situational awareness
situation,
on
absolutely,
top of
where it's
self
like,
awareness. Yeah.
you know, if you're not made aware of the things that would be hurdles in your life, I guess maybe you could live in a slightly elevated level of like delusional joy until they happen.
And you can keep winning. There are gamblers
Maybe
who
you
are
just
up.
never lose and you're
Yeah, there
like,
are gamblers who are up.
but also that speaks to like, to circle back with like the conversation about privilege and stuff. It's like, well, it's also I think important for people who are in a privileged position to know that like this isn't the norm for everybody, and you need to know that maybe you just keep getting lucky, but you need to understand like deeply that like, well, it worked out for me doesn't mean it's going to work out for everyone.
Yeah.
Because
And be grateful.
yeah, because people who
Be
keep getting
grateful for luck.
lucky, yeah.
One of my favorite ever moments in poker television. It was on like a summer live stream. It wasn't even on like the main. I don't think it was on our main ESPN. Um, this guy just, he hit his two outer. I mean, there's one card left to come, and you're behind. And of the 44 cards left in the deck, only two will make you win.
Oh, whoa.
And he hit it. And that man fell to his knees and just thanked whatever his god was.
Wow.
I've never seen a celebration like that.
Because he
He wasn't
knew.
saying, "Look how good I am, look how good I played."
He's
He
like,
was
it
being
worked. I
thankful
got
for how
lucky.
genuinely lucky he got in that moment. And that, to me, there's a reason that resonated, because that's the right, it's not,
That's the right
yeah, I
response.
knew I was going to hit that card. Oh, I'm the fucking best player at this table. It was like, no, I was in a bad spot and I got lucky,
I
and I
got
am
so
grateful,
fucking
and I'm going to
lucky.
keep playing now. I have a responsibility now to play better. I got those chips. I didn't have them before. What's next?
What can I
What
do
do
with
I
the
do
chips I
next?
have?
Yeah, let's be grateful.
Oh
Let's
my
be
God.
thankful. Let's not pretend that was a skill move there. I got
Yeah.
trapped and I got out of the trap. Thank Jesus. And what's
Yeah.
next? Now clear
Just
my
being
head.
honest.
Yeah, now clear my head. That was lucky. That was fun. Back to the skill. Like
Absolutely. And that
back to
keeps
focusing my
you,
skill.
that kept that guy. And like, as an example, like, don't delude yourself into thinking because you got lucky that you're better than XYZ. You know what I mean? That like,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
got lucky. This will be the last thing about me. This will be the
this
last
is
meet me.
about
Then
you.
let's
You're
take
the
a break.
guest.
Well, we also need to introduce sort of, what we're doing thematically throughout the
Okay.
year
We'll do
that we've
about
discussed.
you and then we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about the
This is
podcast.
this is more than I typically like to talk about myself.
Well,
Um,
welcome to being a podcast guest, bitch.
but it's a humble brag. I'm gonna do a humble brag for myself, which is I got really lucky when I was in New York, when I was doing theater, that a friend of mine had booked this concert at Carnegie Hall, and like a not her concert, like a big concert with
Yeah.
this great company called oh fuck, I can't think of their name. I'll have to edit that. Distinguished Concerts International. That's what it was. Distinguished.
I was
I
like
had a clause
so
where I
grateful.
had a clause where anytime I had to talk about it, I have to mention their name. And I was like, oh no, I'm really bad at that shit. I don't do social media. I'm so sorry. But this Distinguished Concert International, who puts on these massive, massive concerts, and they fly in choirs from all over the world, and
Wow.
it's really cool. And they just couldn't find. They needed one guy who could do five different, wildly different songs, and they couldn't find anybody. And my friend happened to book the concert and happened to know me and happened to know that I was probably capable of doing all those songs and put me in touch with them. And I sent them a tape and blah, 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 blah. Never would I say I worked really hard and I got to Carnegie Hall and I was auditioning for concerts and I was fucking lucky.
No, but you also,
I was prepared. I was prepared for the luck to hit, and that's
that's
part
what
of
it
it.
is.
but it's
That's
also,
success.
but you
Being
can't
prepared for
deny,
luck.
like, there were people who are really trying
That
to
they're like, that
to get
specific thing.
to get there, to get in Carnegie Hall and sing in that space, and they don't get to do it. And they are
Hmm.
not less talented than me. They are
Some of them
not.
might be.
They are
You're very
way
talented.
harder working than me. And it's not to say that I'm not talented and I'm not hardworking, but you also need to acknowledge, like, man,
Yeah.
there was just a right place, right time, right person that fell in my lap. Like,
Yeah.
don't let's not pretend. Let's knock it out of the park when we get that shot, but let's also not
Pretend that
pretend
didn't happen.
that I did that.
Yeah.
I
That I
on
was
my own.
plucked
On
from
my own, yeah,
obscurity
from
by
my own
Carnegie
hard
Hall.
work. Yeah, exactly. And
Well, and
it's
that's so important because like you could be super talented and work really hard, and like sometimes there are people who that opportunity just never aligns.
and I'm so hashtag blessed.
Yeah,
Hashtag
we
blessed
all it
people.
all comes down. Well, no, I think that's important because also knowing that is
As a
something that
producer, that was a great moment for you to throw to a break, but I'll let you.
I know. But wait, I need to say one more thing because I talk too much. I think knowing that and keeping that reality close to you, especially if you are pursuing something that is quote a crazy dream, no, that rarely works out for anybody, is that at the end of the day, if you didn't get the part, if you didn't book the show or the record company didn't pick you up, like
Anytime.
you can know that like I worked as hard as I could. I am talented. I didn't I Today the lucky call didn't come in.
Yeah.
And that's
But
okay.
always leave it all on the table.
Yeah.
Always leave it all on the table.
It doesn't mean your art isn't amazing.
Oh, I mean, sometimes look, to flip that poker story around, the other guy, 44 of those 46 cards were going to make him a winner,
And
and
he lost.
he just lost. He just
You just go,
lost.
it's not
Didn't
my
do anything
day.
wrong. He played better. He trapped him. He did everything right. And sometimes those two cards come out and you're fucked.
The river just washes away your dreams. All
You know
right.
it's called the river.
Look at me. Yeah, I dabbled in some Hold'em. I was in high school when World Series came on the air. All right.
Moneymaker, Moneymaker was 2000. God, I should know that. That's so bad.
My parents had a pop up like little round poker table.
Oh
I
man,
knew
the best.
Hold'em kind of, but I knew,
Texas Hold'em.
yeah.
Yeah,
Is there other
that's what most
Hold'ems?
people. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Montana Hold'em?
Omaha Hold'em,
Oh,
Parliament Omaha, high low, like
whoa.
there's yeah, but Texas Hold'em is what most
But
people
I only
consider
knew,
poker on TV. It's the easiest game to film, which is actually sort of a happy, like, it's not necessarily the hardest or the best game. It's just the easiest to put on TV. It's the least amount of graphics.
and I think it's probably the easiest for like novices to understand. But I think I knew,
Yeah,
you know, the
it's still a
the
hard game.
technical rules. Yeah, I know which cards make the things, but like I was started like, you and I started playing around in poker and you were teaching me some things. Like there's skills that go way beyond
Yeah,
what
that's
cards
like
add up.
understanding what piece does what on a chessboard. You're not playing chess just because you know the rook
Yeah.
moves in an L.
In
That's
an
not
L.
chess.
Yeah, exactly. Ah. Life. All right, we're gonna take a break. And we'll be right back to tell you about the fun year ahead we have.
All right. Your
Awesome.
internet's getting a
Should I bring
little
us back in?
stuttery. I don't know if it's me or you.
Should we stop the Zoom and come back? No, that's
No,
weird.
I think we're fine.
Sometimes after an
I'm
hour,
gonna
I feel
get
like
more
my Zoom
water though.
starts
Give
to
me
get wonky.
just a second.
I'm gonna You do that. I'm gonna pee really quick because I've had too much water. I'm gonna pee. Eh.
We've got probably 15. We wanted this to be an hour. I feel like we went a little long, but
That's okay. I'm not hard pressed if it's an hour. I'll just, well, we've got 15 for it to be an hour.
yeah, we're at 50 now, and I'm assuming there's at least 10 minutes of.
Well, I always
Oh
do an
no,
hour
actually, we
plus the
started.
intro and outro. I keep the actual episode an hour, and
Yeah,
then
we'll be close. We could do
um
15 minutes, I think.
okay. If we hit 15 minutes when we're on a roll, can you give me some kind of cue, and then I'll go. All right, you guys, we're wrapping up the free hour,
Sure.
or whatever it's been, around an hour. And if you want the rest, come over. And so there's no pressure, but also if we
Yeah.
wrap before that, who cares? Um, all right, I'll start. Actually, let me. All right, we're back. Let's talk about the show. All right, so we've got some fun new stuff coming in hot. Well, yeah. If first of all, if you haven't joined the Patreon, patreon.com/ignorance is blessed. I put up full length episodes, anything over an hour. Sorry to force this. I already put this in the intro, but I'm plugging it again.
Hey, if
I'm putting
people
up
join, I might actually get paid. So you
stand
can
up
plug
clips.
it all you want.
I use a portion of it to pay Saum, so please join. And also, I tweeted this, and full disclosure, we are so far away from this number because you can join for as little as $1 a month. But if we hit 1,500, somehow hit $1,500 a month, anything over that, I will automatically donate to charity for the entire year, and we'll adjust that as years go on and figure out what that means. But as a goal to like, that's enough that I can pay some. I have money to pay my rent. I will give the rest away. So you could be helping charity if enough of you pay $1, $10, $25.
Yeah, make them feel guilty. Give them that
And
guilt.
if you don't join, think of the children
Think of the children. Somebody
on
think of the children.
on my St. Jude's calendar that they keep sending me, though I've only donated $10 once 4 years ago.
All right. Well, as your producer, I'm going to try and keep you in time for this episode. But let's talk about what we discuss. I'm all about sort of
Structure?
streamlining and focusing and structuring. Yeah, especially coming from a venue as chaotic as poker, where you really have to look for the signal and the noise. Like, how do
Yeah.
you tell a story in a game that almost is inherently random? You got
I
it.
mean,
It's so much easier to do in podcast land.
absolutely. So I think one big thing about this year that we're doing to kind of add a little more structure and give you, specific things to look forward to, we're theming our months. So uh every month we'll have a theme. This episode arguably is a little off center from our January theme of wellness, but I think we got in a lot of life lessons with the poker metaphors and like
I like when we talked about wellness also in terms of change. Wellness in
absolutely
terms of like what I did absolutely was an act of wellness to myself, just in
self-care.
terms of I'm not happy doing X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna not do it. This year gives me the opportunity to take a little,
Choose.
they have that saying that Japanese use the same word for crisis and opportunity.
Oh,
Where it's like
wow.
you never heard that?
No, that's
Oh yeah, it's
incredible.
the same word. I don't know what the word is. I just know the phrase. But they use the same word for crisis and opportunity.
Oh, no.
It means a not normal situation which
You can
you
frame.
can't respond to normally. So
Yeah.
what do? It's an opportunity to react. It's an opportunity to react in a way that you wouldn't otherwise react on a
You wouldn't
typical
have the
day.
opportunity to react. Yeah.
And I
That's
took that opportunity to exercise my privilege and find a little mental wellness.
absolutely. Well, I mean, that's so important. And not to stir off of us talking about the overall format of the podcast, but really, if I could really quick, since it's within the theme, since we're on talking about it, is there anything specifically you're hoping to do for your own wellness this year? Any things you're looking forward to? Things you would like to incorporate more of or less of?
Things I would like to incorporate more of or less of.
If I
I
could
mean,
really quick,
yeah.
I saw something on Instagram the other day that I thought was really interesting, talking about instead of having resolutions, incorporating themes. And that really spoke to me because we're doing monthly themes, but going, okay, my theme for this year is movement. I'm going to move my body, I'm going to move my
Uh,
career. I'm moving. Or like, serenity. Or is there like a theme you would like to bring into this year for your own
Interesting. I haven't thought
wellness?
about it that way, but I think circling back to what we were talking about, it's I need to be a little bit bolder with my chips because I've got chips.
Got chips, you can
I've
make
got chips
moves.
at a time where some people don't.
Yeah.
And I but also not looking at life like it's a knockout event.
No, but
I'm not trying to
take
knock. I'm not trying to people
advantage.
out. My dad supported our family, his entire family, his brothers and sisters, my cousins, like everybody playing,
Playing
using his
poker.
chip stack. He
Yeah,
used his chip stack, and
literally.
yeah, and I absolutely want to do more of that. It'll be interesting to think of it that way. I've never thought of it that way, but
Find ways to support the world around you with what you
yeah,
have.
with what I have,
Either
and
charity, family.
but that means I got to play.
Yeah,
I can't just sit. There are celebrities who quote unquote play poker. Some are really good, some are okay. We got to cover them when we get them just because
just
it's interesting.
ratings.
But the biggest mistake I see them make is, World Series Poker main event is like a 11-day event,
Good
and they'll
God.
make it to day 5 or 6 with a healthy amount of chips, and then they freeze, and they get blinded out, we call it. They just little by little, it whittles away and whittles away and whittles away, and they don't
Wow.
make any moves, and they don't do anything crazy, and they are so shocked that they made it that far that they just try to survive to the next day. And that's the wrong move when you have
That's what
chips.
kills them.
Not try and survive to the next day. It's you keep spinning it up because it
Keep trying to
escalates. The
win.
world just escalates. Your cost escalates. To play each round of poker over a period of time costs more money.
Yeah.
So if you're not building as you go, you're going to fall behind no matter how many chips you think you have now. And I think that's advice I absolutely should give to myself, which is don't just sit on these, don't just survive on these
Yeah.
chips.
Don't just play the fucking what's that called? The buy-in? What is it? What do you
The ante, don't just
Yeah,
post
don't
your
just play the
blinds,
ante.
the
Look at me
antes and
trying to
blinds.
say things and not knowing ante up and then also bet a little.
Yeah, and don't just wait around for aces when you've got chips. You can
No.
go crazy. You can produce some free podcasts. You
I
can
know.
you can diversify.
Until
You can
you
try
get
and
those
create a game
aces.
show. Like I'm trying to create a game show with Andy.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, which is
I
all
think
stuff
you
it's costing. I'm not making money, but I can afford to do that. And look, if I create a game show and I can employ 8 of my friends, that's such a fucking win. Like that's such a win.
I'm here to be a
Like that
writer.
that's the you absolutely are.
Well, no,
Um
that's my goal too is like if I could build something I have up to the point that it can be lucrative for people I like, especially people I like working with if it's, work related.
And new people I don't even know. People,
Yeah, bring in new people, like create opportunity for others.
yeah,
Oh, mwah.
yeah.
That's
And look, I think the entire world is shifting in terms of, what businesses are going to have what share of the economy.
oh yeah,
And I don't think it's going
Bezos.
back. I don't think it's going back.
Yeah, you're done, coal
Um,
miners. Sorry,
yeah, I mean, that's a really sort of crude
specific and
version of what
weird.
I'm, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, specific as well. But yes, I mean, that is the idea.
it's
And
like what is growing? What
so,
can I
like,
do knowing that?
so why not take your chips and start betting on this market and this market and this market and this market and see, like, our podcast is going to be the thing, our game show is going to be the thing, or is live streaming going to be the thing in terms of entertainment? Like, I'm in the entertainment world, obviously. If you're, if you're a chef, you need to start coming up with a more streamlined delivery system where you're not renting a restaurant, you're renting a kitchen, you're
Yeah,
renting
where you can
industrial
just send
kitchen
out the
space.
recipes.
Like, when I go now on my food apps, and I used to see this before, um you would see multiple restaurants share an address, and it was because
Oh,
they weren't physical restaurants. I assume it was some kind of industrial kitchen, and they would
wow.
all be cooking from that space, or it's one person
Just
being
making different
six
menus.
different, exactly. And it's like, look,
That's how you adapt.
that's that's using your chips and playing the game. That's
Smart
not sitting
too.
on your chips and going, I have enough to survive for a little while. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but what happens when you're done surviving? Then
And
you're out.
the
And
restaurants still aren't allowed to have people in there
yeah,
or whatever.
but that's a
Well,
good, I sort of, I like that framing of it.
play your chips.
To
You're gonna
toot my own horn of what you just had me come up with.
No, that was great. I mean, I think that's
But
a
that to
great
me is
metaphor
wellness.
for a
I mean,
lot of
that to me
us.
is so I'm not just sitting here spinning my wheels and going, woe is me, theater's not back. Woe is me. I don't want to go back to poker. I can't really work for ESPN because I don't know what LeBron James' stats are.
No, I think that's a great metaphor, and I think it's a good. It's like, yeah, if you can afford to be bold, and if you can't, maybe turn it back on the boldness. Stop. I'm talking to myself. No,
Well,
but
if you can't afford to be bold,
well, sometimes you have to like make one big bold move, but just be aware.
yeah,
Play what
I
you
can't
have.
to like, I don't want to speak to a situation that I haven't experienced and adapted to. So I don't,
Yeah,
I can only
you don't know.
speak
Don't be
to
afraid
my
to play.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Don't lose everything just surviving.
Yeah.
Like
I know they're not out. I know you're not out.
well, yeah,
You're
but if
not
you look at
out, but
and not
I can't tell you how to play. I just don't know. I've not lived it.
well, and like obviously life isn't a situation where only one person wins. But
Yeah.
if the odds are that like
One of my
most
dad's biggest uh like feelings of, not regret, but when he was just a poker player, there's always that notion of, there are times inherently where that game is a I win, you lose game,
yeah,
where everybody can't win.
yeah,
And there are industries where everybody can win. And he's sort of, for himself, he turned poker into one of those industries where he turned it into TV, where now all of a sudden everybody that he works with wins. We all get paid. I always say, I joke, the only people guaranteed to make money at the World Series of Poker is our crew.
that's so funny. Well, but also like if you're in an industry that right now sustainably everybody can't win and like you run the risk of if I just do survival mode may end up losing in the end anyway, maybe it's worth making the big bold move because that
What's
may change your circumstances.
that big Jim Carrey graduation speech where he talked about his dad? He said, I watched my dad fail at an industry that he didn't even like.
Yeah, I
You can
watched that.
fail at things you don't even like.
And it's like,
But
why
don't
not
fail at
fail at
something
something
you
you
do.
love?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, my heart.
But that, to me, I mean, that is not wellness. That is absolutely part of the path to
No,
wellness.
absolutely. I think,
How do you invest your time? How do you
yeah,
assess your situation? how do you, I mean, what is therapy other than like, let's talk about your given circumstance and figure out how
How
to
to work
behave in
within
it?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, 10,000%. Like, I think that's a great goal. I think, going like learning how to better utilize my circumstances and my time
Yeah.
to enrich my life and the life of people around me. That's a great goal. I think
Yeah.
that's a great
You
thing
got
to
to
bring
read the
into
whole
this year.
table before you can make a play.
You gotta know when to hold 'em.
That
R.I.P.
too.
Kenny.
That too.
We miss you,
R.I.P.
Kenny.
That was the funniest and saddest meme. Kenny Rogers dying in 2020 is the most no one to fold him thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh man, I I got a good laugh out of that. It was sad though.
I mean, it's because it's painfully real. Is the truth
Yeah.
that like I was trying to find. I'm combing through a completely disorganized notebook. I bought one of those
All of our
three.
themes.
I bought one of those like sectioned off notebooks, thinking oh I'll use each different section for different things. But I've just
Foolish.
not. I just am using different areas for no reason. I was trying to find our themes, but the point is, this year what we're gonna do, you guys, is chunk in themes monthly. So
It's gonna help us look into the future and get really interesting guests,
yeah,
knowing
we'll be
what
able
we're
to
looking
plan
for.
ahead.
Yeah.
And it may, I I understand that like it may keep us from getting certain types of guests this year because they just plainly don't fit into the theme. But that's okay because there's gonna be another year. And
Yeah.
if someone comes across
Everybody, 7 billion people are all interesting. We can't have them all on the podcast.
absolutely, which like God help me, I could if I could just ask every person like tell me about your life.
There's that,
Like
well, there's that like some social media account of just like people of New York. Just walk
humans
up to
of New
someone on this
York.
humans of New York, yeah, and just take a picture and be
Yes.
like, "Who are you? What do you do?"
Yeah. Oh, I found the page. Should I go over our
Sure.
themes now? I'll
We're at
also
about an hour five, so
okay. Well, you know what? We're gonna wrap up this free episode. And if you want to hear what the themes are ahead of time,
yeah.
head over to Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Patreon.com. You can get this full episode. You can get every full episode unedited, just raw, unfiltered. And usually
And,
way before they release on the like as soon as we record, this drops in Patreon. But
oh,
you
nice.
you guys are hearing it a
And
week
I would say,
later.
patrons, once you hear that, don't be afraid to send people our way. If you see we're doing something and you're like, "Oh man, I know someone, or I am someone who can speak to this topic,"
Absolutely.
at us.
Yeah.
Do at us.
Send them to Patreon. At least send them to the podcast to subscribe. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a rating and a review.
Is do at me a thing? I know don't at me is a thing. Like, can we make
Do
do at
do
me?
at me. At me.
Ignorance must be the do at me podcast. Like, do
Yes,
at me.
do
At
at
me
me.
on everything.
Tag ignorance is blessed everywhere you can. If you think someone posting would like this, if you know an episode they'd like, fuck yes,
Do at me.
share. That can be a great New Year's thing too. Sharing the knowledge, sharing the wealth. Even if it's not this podcast, if you're listening to this, you're likely someone who is a podcast person. You listen to podcasts. Tell someone who is your friend who you don't normally talk about podcasts with. Tell them about a podcast you like. Open them up to the world of podcasting. Some people are like, I don't understand. It's newfangled. Old people. But
It's radio. It's
I
the
know.
least fangled.
But some
It's like
people are like,
old
I
school
like
talk
my
radio.
radio stations. I have Sirius XM. I understand podcasting. And it's like, that's not, no. Anyway, good riddance to all of the free, not good riddance. We'll see you next time if you're not going to the Patreon, whatever.
You know, I thought of a great quote for this podcast.
Yes.
That is, it's, I think it's in the beginning of Franny and Zoe. No, it's in the beginning of Don Quixote. I think it's one of the quotes at the beginning of Don Quixote, where he says, "Ape not philosophy or wit," meaning don't pretend to know.
Yeah.
Ape not philosophy. Ape meaning repeat without understanding.
I was like, monkeys? I don't.
Ape not philosophy or wit. lest those who really comprehend wry faces make and ask, why offer flowers to me, my friend? Like,
Explain that to me because I'm too dumb.
uh, just like, I love the idea of this podcast being one where you're not going to pretend to know anything about these subjects.
No. Yeah.
Because the people who do know, they know that you don't know, but they're also like, why are you trying to impress me? Don't try to impress me with your knowledge. This conversation could be way more interesting if we just
Absolutely.
like
Well, and that's what I like. I started it with that in mind, and also wanting to get over my own fear of like feeling like I need to always know what's going on in the conversation. Where it's like, oh yeah, no, full, yeah, absolutely, science. Like where you're like, oh, I don't want everyone to think I don't want to be the dumbest one in this circle of conversation, so I'm just gonna be like, absolutely, I read the trades, sports trades, or what do you mean trades? Like, thank you, I love that because I think it's harder to learn when you come in thinking I know and I know, and and I just am someone who I don't think I'm unique, and like I want to learn more. I want to learn more, like factually, but also like I want to learn where people come from. Why? What makes this person tick? Why did they go into this, field of employment, or why is this thing so interesting to them? Why is it so important for them to talk about this topic, or that they, have this certain viewpoint that maybe I don't have? Because I think it's easy. I think it's kind of a
or
narcissistic.
even if you do have it, they're coming at it from a different angle.
Yeah, because I think it's close. It's very close-minded to assume that like what you
How did
think.
you get to my viewpoint?
Yeah,
That's
it's like
interesting.
we're
I
so
know how
different.
I got to my viewpoint. How did you get
Why?
to my viewpoint?
Why are we? Yeah, why do we align on this when it seems like we've come from such different places? I think
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I think I like to believe it would be a good way to like show the similarities in humans who are different. You know what I mean? Where it's like, can people who are very different find some type of common ground? Can you go, wow, I think the opposite of that, but I really related to what this person said about this
Yeah.
other thing. So hopefully we're doing that. I'm going to run through the themes for you guys now, for all you hot ticket patrons giving us the big buck, or more than $1.
The
But
big buck. I love that.
so January we covered it's wellness. If you're not already in the Facebook group, by the way, I plugged this at the beginning of with the intro, but you guys don't get the boring tacked on intro and outro. It's cut to the goods. That is where I post, hey, we've got this person coming up. Here's some things they've done. Does anyone have any questions? So if you want to try to get in questions ahead of guests, head there. But I've already posted about guests we have coming in. We've got Vanessa Risotto, who is one of the top 5 Black nutritionists in America,
Dope.
talking about
I don't know these
nutrition
guests yet. I'm excited.
and our our bodies and our relationships with food and the importance of diet. Stacia Patwell, who is a friend of mine, but she's a comedian, but also a personal trainer, kind of fitness guru. Who the thing I'm excited to talk.
She flipped her business.
Yeah,
She like
she
yeah.
went from pandemic started. She started just because she was going to do workouts anyway, Zooming free workouts for women Monday through Friday, once a day. Then from there, people were getting results. She used those results. She was doing donation only, used those results to go, here's what my work has done. Built a whole personal training, like 8-week program. She takes people on. She makes good money. She built a business. Like she took lemons and turned them
I
into
mean,
fucking
that's what I
lemonade.
mean, in that we can't assume that the industries and economy as they were are coming back. So
No,
let's take
and
my skills and let's adapt.
let's see how can I adapt them for my own survival and to continue helping others. And that's what she did. I think she's a really good example of that.
By the way, I'm such a proponent of donation based business. Ever since I
Absolutely.
started going to yoga to the people like 15 years ago in New York, and I was like, oh, this is genius. And I just watched them expand and expand and expand. And you know what? Sometimes I paid nothing,
Yeah.
and sometimes I paid 20, and
It's
sometimes
like
I paid what I could,
you pay what you can, pay, what you think like that class felt like. I did my
People
when I did
are
my
good. To me, that is just a model based on let's start a business model that assumes people are good. And when
Yes.
they succeeded, I was like, oh, thank Jesus.
Well,
I was
that's
like,
the Vipassana meditation I did is 10-day silent meditation. It's all donation based. They will not take a donation from someone if they don't complete the 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, they go, whatever you feel like you're comfortable giving within your means that this is worth. And to me, it's one of those things where, yeah, businesses like that are built on the assumption that people are good and that if someone's not paying and they're coming regularly, it's not because they are trying to get one over on you. It's like when it's a mean situation, and maybe someone's not paying for yoga, but they told 5 of their rich friends about yoga for the people because it means a lot to them. And when they do have the money, they're going to start paying more. Or and then there's someone who
that was the
comes
like
in.
charity bingo I was doing with my family. I was like, I don't have extra money right now to give to charities, but I know a lot of people who do.
That's so well, no, and it's
So
like,
let's play bingo.
and if I'm looking at something that I love like that, if I'm coming in with with no money, how can I repay this experience I had right now, and then coming in later, or if I come into that where I have a lot of money going, there's probably people who really believe in this who can't afford to give a lot, but it means a lot to them. I can afford to give a lot. I'm going to make a big donation because it also means a lot to me.
Yep.
Absolutely, I love that. And there's always going to be a few fucking shysters who are like, it means it's
Sure.
free,
Yeah.
but like
That's not a reason to not.
cost and benefit.
I
You know what I
I
mean?
think that way in politics as well. Someone is always going to game the system. It doesn't mean don't have a system.
Yeah. Well, and I
You
like,
can't uh, lowest common denominator things in that way.
yeah,
You factor in, you build around it.
yeah, absolutely. And what I like about Stacia is, and you guys will see this in her interview, that like, and I'm not running through every guest we're doing, but I'm telling you about January, a few things to look forward to because we don't have the rest of our guest book, frankly. Though I am considering blind LinkedIn messaging the head of Human Rights Campaign to try to get him on for February. But, um, oh, she didn't adjust her personality to go like, well, I got to turn on my fitness personality. She had the knowledge, but she's still funny. She's biting. She also is like, yeah, no, it fucking sucks. Working out sucks. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like the more you do it, the more you're going to be like, every day I look
God, I
forward to doing
hate it.
squats.
Is
Yeah,
that my pay attention to my body should be one of my
yeah, no,
2020
she's like,
mantras.
you don't have to like it. You just have to be willing to do it.
The hardest part is getting to the mat. I used to
Yeah,
have carved on a desk. Like,
that I would never leave and never get to them. Yeah, no, it's if I can make it to the class, I'm locked in. It's turning on the Zoom. It's or in the olden times,
it's
going to the yoga studio.
setting the schedule. It's picking the themes.
Yeah,
It's doing that
being
work.
accountable. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to have her on, and she's like no nonsense bullshit. She's not going to tell you that like anybody it could be a healthy body. It's like no, there are
Yeah.
ways to be healthy.
You can be healthy in your body.
Yeah,
I remember the first time I saw a very, very large person in yoga class just
crushing it.
destroy everybody, just
Fucking upside
destroyed
down
everybody.
headstand.
And I was like, oh, I got to keep going to yoga.
Yeah, and I
I'm
like,
never going to look like that guy over there, but
but I
I,
can get
I got to
to
keep
the
going.
flexibility within
Yeah.
my body. God, I'm now like I'm
I miss it.
reminiscing.
I miss
Yeah,
it.
no, on like, oh, when I was going regularly and like I don't know for you, and I don't want to talk on this too long because I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't do yoga and don't give a shit. Although I would say you should all try it. For me, I did hot yoga.
Yeah. Hot vinyasa was my favorite.
Yeah, and there was a point where I was going for a long time where I was just like, I know it's good for me. I fucking hate this. And something clicked. Like there was just one day where I I finally understood what a flow was.
Yeah.
Like I flowed.
I just can't afford it in LA.
No, absolutely
There's
not.
no I couldn't find a good donation base that I could get to in LA.
No, it's like you have to pay of like $200 a month for
it's
the
a
discounted
luxury exercise
version.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, what I think we should do is
Which I bet you those studios are all closed now.
yeah. Oh, I mean that's the most disgusting place to be. Are you kidding? Let's rent. We need to rent a house with a guest house that we turn into a studio, but also turn on heaters and do a hot yoga.
Yeah.
Um, The
Turn
dream.
my apartment into a hot yoga. I'm just realizing I've got this great heater now.
You just do, yeah.
Torture myself once a day.
I did that one day
And the
during,
dog. I'll
yeah,
cook my poor
well, yeah,
dog.
your space is so small. I tried to do it
Yeah.
one day during quarantine where I just had the heater blasting me. So I was like, the room's not going to get hot enough. But if I
No, yeah,
blast
it's got to
myself,
be. Yeah, you
it's
have to
tight
be
space or a lot of heaters or
not
I don't know.
radiating into the colds. Like you want to retain your heat.
But anyway, so January's wellness. We got a ancestral trauma NLP hypnotist therapist coming on, Julietta Bodo. So that'll
Oh
be another one of our guests,
wow!
and we'll have a bonus guest.
And I'm
Probably
gonna go ancestral therapist.
ancestral trauma, which I really want to ask her
Ancestral
about.
trauma. Oh,
I
got
mean,
it.
her
Got it. Yeah, yeah.
her big thing was like I'm a hypnotist, but she talks about uh racial trauma, and she does like ancestral, like inner child healing,
Yeah.
ancestral trauma, which is huge because as you and I discussed, not on the podcast, but the other day, we talked about how your DNA, if your
Yeah.
ancestors were traumatized, their DNA changed, and that is living
Yeah.
in your DNA. That is a
Yeah.
scientifically proven thing.
Yeah. I wonder
So
what like escaping Iran, not escaping. I mean, he was here when the Iranian government collapsed, but I wonder how that has affected me.
yeah,
Like how my dad getting out of Iran when
what are
he
your
did
vices? You
affect
ever have
me.
anxiety
Like
and you don't know what it's about?
it's about Iran. It's
Yeah, it's you're having fight or flight triggered for something that you didn't actually go through.
yeah.
It's, I mean, that whole conversation, by the way, in case anyone's listening, stemmed from there was one lightning storm in LA recently. There was a huge bolt of thunder. And this is not new for me. Like, I've been in thunder and fireworks, and the way I react, I was like, I mean, this is corny, but I think I was in a war in a past life. Which,
Oh,
to be
yeah,
fair,
I remember talking about that.
a psychic has also told me that I was a warrior in several past lives. Um, Not to brag, someone sent me to
A
a psychic
psychic
as
in
a
high
birthday
school told
gift,
me I would move to New York, and that
and
ended
you
up being
did.
true.
A
Yeah.
psychic in high school told me I'd end up in California, and I just
To be fair,
remembered
I was a
that.
gay theater kid, so that
So
was
he's like, that guy's a
that's
fraud.
poker. That's getting a read.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, okay, yeah. I had a psychic told me this is. There's no reason for me to share this other than like it's psychic and it's interesting. She told me that I was a warrior in several past lives, and in this life, I'm a healer. And instead of weapons, I use
Ooh.
words. And this was she knew nothing about me. She's like, you're going to use your words to heal people, and she was like, a lot of people. You're going to heal, and I was like, feels like a lot of pressure.
How many patrons do we have?
Well, we're not at $1,500 yet, so it just turns into like one of those calling marathons. We have, I don't know, I have to look. Somewhere between 30 and 40.
Where's the big thermometer? Let's see.
Yeah, just have that on the wall. Okay, so February.
It's just your brain, and it looks like it's getting more full of knowledge as we get
Ding, ding,
more
ding,
as
ding,
we
ding.
get
Yeah.
more patrons.
Oh my god, that'd be a fun graphic to like as like a little goal thing.
An empty-headed ignorance is blessed, and you just fill up slowly.
The more I get the patrons, the more it's like, let's fill up the brain. That actually might be a fun social media.
This is why you pay me the no dollars.
That's right. Hey, I give a very small amount of money, which will hopefully grow. We'll see. So February, the non-PC way of saying what we're doing is Black to the Future month, but uh it's cliche, I think, to bring on guests like people of color, Black people for, it's Black History Month. That being said, and I am mentioning this when I am reaching out to these guests. Hey, I know this is kind of a cliche month. I don't want you to think it's a throwaway. I am aware that I probably have a large portion of listeners who are who feed off of cliches. So I think this is the best time to reach. I'm trying to reach people who go, you know what? It's Black History Month. I should learn more about the Black community.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think. I mean, when I talked to you about this, I didn't necessarily think it was cliche, but I thought it was interesting to frame it as future history,
Yeah, like we're
now
not going to be talking
that
about
we
Black
think is
history
going to be, yeah, that we think,
or
how
changing the future.
how are you behaving to make yourself a part of the Black history of the
Yeah,
future?
like we want what. So our goal with guests are people who 50 years from now they're going to look back and go, and here's what this person did to shape the culture.
Yeah,
Uh, so who is the future of the Black community basically?
yeah. What are
Who's
they looking at that they think?
absolutely. And I will be doing within those in the regular episodes for those interested. I'm planning to in the intros, for anyone who is looking for, Black history, talk about some books I've read that I found very helpful and informative. So I'll be adding those as little nuggets because there are books that fucking Ta-Nehisi Coates changed me. Like his Between the World and Me. I read
Never
that.
read it.
I listened to it, an audiobook of it, while driving across the country for a tour in 2017 and sobbed from Minnesota to Nashville. Like, because it gave a very, and that's not even history. That's like the book is written as a letter to his son about like what you're going to have to prepare for as a Black man in America. And that gave me a perspective that,
Yep.
I could easily go like, yeah, no, I get that, like, it's a little harder for Black people. That gave me the like, oh, this is where this is what you guys deal with on a regular
These are
basis.
your cards.
Yeah,
I
and
couldn't
he's
see
telling real stories of people from his life and people he's lost and encounters he's had where you go, oh, it's easy to go, yeah, no, it seems like it's bad. You watch one news story, but then you hear this man giving a personal account, and I'm sure I'll recommend that in one of the episodes, whatever. But March, we're kind of doing like a springtime religion. We've got Easter, we've got Passover. It's kind of a loose theme. We're gonna try to get someone to talk about
I put
Persian
my
Year.
thumb on that scale pretty hard of like, I'm just fascinated by
Why spring?
yeah,
Why
well,
all
I know
this?
why obviously it's solstice and it's very, there's a reason all these holidays fall when they fall. But
Yeah, because that's when
what
Jesus
is
came
it
out of
about
the
each
rock or whatever.
celebration that is inherently linked to spring? Why is Easter the Christian spring? Why is Passover oh God, see, I don't even know. I'm ignorant. I'm like,
Passover, no,
for us,
Passover
like
is right
Persian
around
New Year,
Easter.
what are the Persian New Year traditions? Why are they related to spring?
Um, and full disclosure, we're gonna try to find guests who can answer that question. I have a feeling we may run into one or two. I don't know. That's just kind of when it occurred. It never. I don't know. Hopefully, we'll find someone who can speak to if there is
I
an
think if you
alignment.
know the holiday well enough, we're just asking you to reflect on it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think that'll be fun. We may do something
Discover it along with us.
absolutely, and we may bring in non-religious figures. We may talk to a farmer or uh I guess it's religious in a way, but I thought maybe like would be a good time to if we want to bring in like an astrologer to talk about what this change of seasons.
Hey, yeah.
But that could also be a December. December is going to be a wild card month, winter wild card. That's when
Yeah,
like
because we
the
wanted
ones.
to touch that a little bit with winter solstice as well.
Yeah, and that gives us a small window of here's some people we really thought were
I guess
interesting.
we
We
should
didn't know
say
where
it's
to fit
spring. It's spring equinox, not spring solstice.
Yeah, did I say solstice?
It's
Well,
spring and fall. I think I did too. Spring and fall
show it
equinoxes, and then summer and winter solstice. Because the equinoxes days are exactly equal, and then the
equally. Yeah,
solstices are
it's
summer is the longest day, and then winter is the shortest day.
shortest. Yeah, really showing my ignorance barreling through, calling it spring solstice. You guys got it. You guys were with me. April, we're going to do a social media month. So we're going to talk to someone about branding, maybe talk to an influencer, possibly someone who's been canceled or has been part of a movement. Maybe I just realized
Someone who is done canceling.
Yeah, maybe we'll get someone from the hashtag Me Too movement. Maybe we'll get one of the Harvey Weinstein cancelers.
Get Ronan Farrow. Is he still single? Can we get Ronan Farrow on this podcast?
I feel like
I'm available.
It can't hurt to try. I am so available, Ronan. Are you listening? Come meet Saum. Are you one of my patrons?
Ronan Farrow is just like, I dig this podcast. Patron number 2 was Ronan Farrow, but he never wrecked you. He never told anybody to listen.
He's just a silent majority.
He kept it to himself, like a precious jewel.
He's like, I don't want to cause a stir. I like to have my private hobbies. I don't want to be in the spotlight all the time, which I appreciate, Ronan. I know you're listening under a fake name as a patron. Eric Henke, are you Ronan Farrow? Okay. May. Okay, so here's what we're doing with May. Instead of doing, let's talk about what a shit year, all the fucked up shit in 2020 was now, when we're still in the thick of, we don't have a vaccine. A lot of places are still shut down. Cases are rising.
You think January 2021 isn't part of 2020? It's part of 2020.
Yeah, as one of my he's a patron, but also he's in the Facebook group. Craig mentioned when I talked about this podcast episode, like maybe we'll talk about the new year. He's like, well, January is, it's the 13th month of 2020. He's like,
Yeah.
it'll be 13th
I
and
think
then the
February
14th.
will be too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're hoping by May the vaccines come around, things have changed, we got a new president.
New perspective.
Yeah, a little bit a step toward previous normal life in certain ways is on the horizon. Hopefully COVID is the thing that we're mostly able to look back on.
Yeah.
And
I think it's more likely the new normal is going to be a little more clear.
Yeah, because right now it's fucking chaos. So that is when we will maybe look back on some of the harder stuff of 2020. We've had a little bit more time to process it. We're going to do, maybe try to get a nurse or someone who survived COVID, maybe somebody who lost someone or a business. Maybe we can find someone who, against all odds, 2020 was the best year of their life.
Yeah.
And how awkward that was. So that's something to look forward to. And by the way, if you're hearing a theme and thinking, you know who I like, who I would love to hear interviewed about this, let us know.
Do at us.
Do at us. Do at me. We'll try. We're not afraid to ask. We're being bold. And we're going to try to get the people you guys want. So let us know. June.
We want to platform your friends.
Yes. Let us know. June, it's summertime. We're going to do we want to get like a Disney employee. We want to talk about people who like thrive in the summer. Camp counselors, maybe a music tour manager, a mom blogger.
But specifically because they had to skip last summer.
Yeah. And how that impacted
what this
them.
summer back means. Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe, maybe we'll try to get like a mommy blogger to talk about, going into a regular summer versus, is it summer for them? Like, what do you do? I don't know, because they've been trapped with their kids for so long. God bless you. July, I'm bringing it back because it got a lot of good responses, and I just liked sharing the stories. Minority Mental Health Month. So we're going to interview persons of color, either about their own mental health journeys, if they work at organizations for mental health, why it's important to them, the work they do for it. So look forward to that. I know you guys, those episodes got did great numbers, so I feel like that's a topic that
we're gonna have a gay half Iranian therapist on, right?
Yeah. Are you going to get your therapy degree, or did you already have that? You are my therapist at this point.
Lord, no, I should be nobody's. I feel like I'm way too brutally honest with people to be a therapist. I'm like, no, you're dumb.
Sometimes it's like, yeah. I wonder what you learn in the master's program for therapy as far as bedside manner of like, if there is tools they give you to like how to delicately let someone know that they're the problem. Because it's like,
oh, your husband is not the problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a thing. A repeated sentiment is that like therapists don't want to work with narcissists. A lot of therapists will drop like narcissists or like borderline clients because it's like therapy only works if you're willing to work on yourself. And it's like, if you can't,
you're just coming to blame everybody else. What can I do for you?
Yeah. I also saw I retweeted it. Where is it? I don't know where my phone is. Never mind. I saw a tweet. No,
we're at an hour 30.
Okay, well, I'm going to read this and then we'll blast through
I'm having fun, so I'm not cutting us off.
Oh no, Google's trying to cut me off. Let me find this thing. I found this interesting, and some of you may not agree with me, but I retweeted it because it spoke to me about someone from my past that I was like, it reminded me of, but this random person tweeted, I don't know if therapy works for abusers and gaslighters. I think it just helps them learn how to do it better and escape accountability by providing them with therapy lingo they can use to shame the people they're hurting. And I was like, whoa, because I have in the past lived with someone who started going to therapy, and they were, by the way, they had a therapist before it. They were a diagnosed narcissist, but they said it was like a different kind of narcissist. And the therapist was like, well, I think they told me that the therapist is like, I think we've done all we can do. And, I've given you the tools I can. And I didn't know till later because I was like, oh, that's crazy. Well, maybe she just doesn't know how to help you. And then when I got to know them, I was like, oh, she was like, you're not going to take accountability.
Yeah.
He started going to therapy again. And I didn't realize till reading that. I started looking back on things he did to me specifically, but I watched this person come home from therapy and then like get on the phone with their family and start explaining like why their family was so fucked up and like why they were so
Ooh.
wrong. And I was like, you're no good therapist could have told you go
Do
home
that.
and call your
Yeah.
family and tell them how fucked up they are. Right? That's what you need to do is tell your parents why you that it's their fault you're so fucked up and they're useless. Like but
I
it was
mean, I call my family and tell them to wear their fucking masks.
absolutely it was just
And
the
I definitely
interesting
quote scientific jargon at them that I do not have a mastery of.
but that's different than like literally I listened to him tell his mother that it's like you can't do anything. Like you're like basically tell his mom that she was a worthless piece of shit. And like
Was she?
no.
No, obviously not. What a bad
Uh
joke. I shouldn't even do that.
I mean, but and then it doesn't matter. It's just not about my personal therapy, but that blew my mind that like that's a thing that people go through, like therapists go through if someone's like a textbook
They
narcissist.
have to make a decision to like not arm them.
Um God, we should get on a therapist. September, no, we switch these. August, we're going to do a back to school. So education, we want to talk to maybe somebody who went to an obscure school, like a boarding school, or someone who works at like a special school for the deaf, or a teacher, so that kind of thing. Some fun like back to school fall. What's it like being in that world? Maybe a university professor. I have a friend that's a professor at a university. At USC, he teaches journalism. Maybe I'll get him on. He was also on The Bachelor or Bachelorette this past season. Garen
Oh,
Powers.
this was the yeah.
So it's all tying both podcasts together. September, I'd say not to bring it down, but you guys know the tone of this podcast. It's going to be suicidal September. So we're going to talk about suicide. We're going to talk to.
It's suicide awareness.
Oh, wait, it's a suicide
right?
awareness month. Yeah.
Or is that October?
It's September. I'm
September.
painfully aware of when it is because literally every fall when I feel my absolute worst, it's Suicide Awareness Week. And I was like, this cannot be a coincidence.
Yeah,
I swear to God.
Statistics arming that.
Yeah. So maybe we'll talk to a therapist then. Talk to somebody who is a suicide survivor, lost someone to suicide, maybe someone who works, for suicide prevention foundation.
I have friends in AFS, American
AFSP?
Suicide. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do walks for them every year. Maybe we'll do another walk if those are
I just got a text to do like a charity show for one of them, and I don't know if I have the bandwidth, and I feel like such a horrible person.
Fine. No, you can't drive yourself to suicide trying to help an organization that prevents it. That wouldn't be
feel
productive.
bad though.
Maybe I'll get lucky and get someone from that place in Zurich where they do assisted suicide. I think that'd be an interesting interview.
She's in Oregon, and they do that in Oregon.
Oh, that's
right.
I
wonder how that factors in Oregon, if there's any sort of overlap in those, like
if they work together or if they're like sworn enemies.
Interesting.
How they feel about each other. That's actually very interesting.
How do you normalize end of life while also normalizing the stigma that surrounds suicide? It's interesting. There's lots of questions to be asked.
I'm also curious to hear on the criteria of like what someone in a job like that, like what qualifies someone as like cognizantly aware, like it's okay, we trust that this person
this is a legitimate decision and we can enact it now.
And why would you say it isn't for other people?
Yeah.
Like, because you're like, no, life could get better. And it's like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
And also that, to me, that really ties in with like pro-choice and shit. And I get real weird about it. Anyway, it's like, it's my body, my choice.
Lots of very interesting questions that I don't know the answers to.
Absolutely. In October, kind of Halloween theme, we're going to do a costume theme. So maybe a costume designer, a cosplayer, a drag queen. We're going to have fun with that. Maybe a person who, does the Halloween Horror Nights employee, like a seasonal employee or whatever.
Yes. Oh my God.
Or a horror movie actor. Maybe we'll find someone in that world. So that'll be fun. November, Indigenous Peoples Month. This one I just want to elevate the voices of Native Americans or Native Alaskans, maybe different Indigenous peoples, hear their story, both as an individual and part of their culture, and kind of further educate myself on what I don't know about that, which is a fucking lot. Like, is it offensive for me to have a totem pole?
1/128th Anecdotally, don't have me on. This is
Yeah.
where I'm going with that.
Yeah,
Don't have me.
you look indigenous. I'll just talk to you. And then December, as we mentioned before, Winter Wonderland. It's movie season. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's a little bit of a wild card. We may do some winter themed things, but also some people that were like, "This is a cool story," and we don't know where to fit it in. And then, of course, as patrons,
The white elephant, the Secret Santa month.
yeah,
You're not gonna know what it is till you open it.
exactly. That is a perfect way to put it. And
Right, put that on the paper. It's White Elephant Month.
I think it literally does say white elephant. I just
Ah!
didn't know what it meant. I was like, I guess maybe we're gonna do
I didn't remember saying that before. I don't know which one of us said it, but
addressing
obviously
the white elephant in the room.
What is
Yeah.
the origin of white? It's probably something horribly racist that we don't know.
Well, it used to be okay. Maybe it's not called this anywhere else. I think I said this on the other podcast, or it was just
We
a
gotta wrap up.
conversation.
I gotta put my producer
In
hat on.
Mississippi, we called it a Chinese auction.
Oh
So
yeah, I remember you guys talking about that.
anyway, we have to wrap up. But you guys think about those topics. If there's a guest you want, if you're excited about something, let us know at me. Do at me.
Do at me.
And Saum, do you want anyone to follow you anywhere? Do you want them to at you?
God no, all my shit's private.
Okay. Well, tweet at the podcast.
This is
if you
one of
wanna...
the only times anybody on either of your podcasts is ever going to hear my voice.
I know. Well,
and you guys ask, and I'm like specifically, I'm like, that is not what a talent producer does. I am not.
I know, but
in
I'm
the
trying to make
show.
you like the Robin to our Howard Stern over there. Like
over here, we can maybe talk about it. Not on Filthy Nerds though. You
that's
guys
true.
Good show.
Over here it might be a good fit. We'll see. We'll learn as we go.
I know I'm going to want to ask questions. It's going to be tough for me to not be like, excuse me, by the way, I have a question.
I actually, and patrons, feel free to comment in chat if you disagree with this. I wouldn't mind that because there are some times where the interview ends and I go,
I should have asked.
I should have asked this. Yeah. So if something occurs to you and there's a good time to like slip it in, fuck yes. In my
or I may just pop it in your ear.
Oh, that's also very professional of you. Thank you for making me look like I remember all the questions.
Hey,
all right,
that's
you guys.
a talent producer's job. Is you think your sports announcers just know all of the stats that they say on the air? No. They don't know those stats. There's 6 people behind them feeding them those
researching.
Stats.
That's why it's called a talent producer. Yes. The person speaking has no talent, and there's someone else producing it. That's so true. All right, you guys. We have gone on long enough. Thank you, Saum. Thank you for your poker wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you. This is fun.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and the dog barked at the end. Look at that.